Welcome to Table Talk, a 12-step journey with Nick Robinson.
Welcome back to the conversation. I'm Nick Robinson, and we are continuing on our journey through the 12 steps of recovery. Today we are on step number 8, and I am here with Rick Lanham as he's been our faithful guide through all of these steps. Rick, thank you for joining us again. Can you tell us what step number 8 is?
Step number 8 is made a list of all people that we have harmed and became willing to make amends to them all.
Okay, so as I'm trying to track this sentence, this step, I'm noticing maybe there are 3 steps here. One is that we have to acknowledge that there are people that we have harmed. We have to think through it. Who have we hurt? How have we hurt them? And not only do we have to acknowledge it to ourselves, but we're at some point making a list. We're writing this down where someone else can see, and there's going to be some kind of accountability to it. And then I'm noticing that we have to be willing to make amends. This is not the step where we're going to make the amends yet, but this is an internal thing. I've identified what I need to make amends for, and I'm becoming willing to actually do it. Did I break it down?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, anytime there's a step that has the word "and" in it, you know you've bitten off quite a bit. There's a new commercial out with the Discover card. The guy walks in, he pulls out his card, and he says, "I'll take one of everything on the menu." Which is, I think the first sentence in the second paragraph says, "This is a large order."
It does. This is a large order, a very large order.
This is a huge step because there's no way for me to know really all the people that I've harmed. Mm-hmm. There are things that I have said, there's things that I have done that I don't know really. There's no way for me to know whether or not something in my past is a long past, the ripple effect of whether or not I hurt them. Yeah. I was a pastor, I was a teacher, I was a consultant. All of those require a lot of communication. So I talk a lot.
And responsibility. You're responsible for a lot of people and a lot of things. There's a lot on your plate in those positions.
I mean, what we do, we talk.
Yeah. Well, and that I talk for a living. Probably I talk too much, but people will come to me and say, "Nick, you remember when you said such and such?" And I'll say, sometimes I'll be like, "I don't really remember that, but that does sound kind of like something I would say, maybe smarter than what I would say." Or sometimes I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. If I did say that, I have no idea what I meant." It's even hard just to remember all of the things you've said, much less all of the people you may have hurt by saying those things.
And as children have this little thing they chant that sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Mm-hmm. And that's absolutely not true.
Absolutely.
The words stick with us, and sometimes those words haunt us as we grow into adolescence and even into young adult, and they stick with us. Somebody says something to us as a child that you were never wanted, or you're good for nothing, or who knows what it is, and that frames who we are for a long, long time. Yeah. And so if somebody says, "Do you remember saying such and such to me?" And no, I don't ever remember saying that to you. And especially in a nefarious season of my life, or an addictive season of my life, or a blackout season of my life, I hate to admit, there are some things that I don't even remember where I was or what I was thinking, or, people at some point in time would say, "Hey, do you remember last night what you said to so-and-so, or what you texted to them?" And I'm going, "No, because I don't even remember where I was last night, let alone what I said or who I was with when I said it." And so that is the nature of the beast when you're dealing with people in some cycle of addiction.
So how does this step make provision for that? Do you just remember what you can remember and you do your best? Is there a way to get around the not remembering? Is there some kind of blanket amends that you try to do? Or you just have to say, "I just can't do it all"?
Well, I think we've talked about the fact that these steps are designed and they're in an order for a reason. So we're not making the amends yet.
Yeah.
We're making a list of all people that we have harmed that we know of. So, after this many years in recovery, I'm making a list. So there may be some people on this list now that I haven't had in the past. There may be some people on this list that I can't make amends to because I know that I harmed them, but they're gone. You know, I know one person that immediately comes to mind that told me a story that they knew that they had harmed their father,
Yeah.
but their father had passed away. So they wrote an extensive letter to their father, and they went to his graveside and read it out loud to their dad. But one of the things that first came to mind, and I've thought about, you know, this conversation that we're having on step 8, is the first person that I needed to make amends to was me. I didn't realize what I had thwarted. Who I had thwarted the most was me. You know, there was the assumption that I wasn't hurting anybody. You know, I wasn't hurting anybody around me. It was just, hey, it's just me. But I really was hurting myself. I was destroying potential. I was destroying relationships. I was destroying the man that God wanted me to be, the father that God wanted me to be, the potential spiritual growth. So I needed to, you know, Sermon on the Mount, love your neighbor as yourself. I can't love my neighbor until I learn. And so the hardest part of my own recovery was learning to love myself. Forgive is, you know, to the measure that you forgive, so shall you be forgiven. I had to forgive myself. I had to love myself. I had to learn self-care. So this, when it says this is a large order, boom, you know, all of a sudden it was like this took on some huge ramifications for my recovery. Yeah. So the first person that I had to put on the list was Rick.
And some of this is, a lot of these steps have been inward facing. So like looking at our own shortcomings and things like that. But this is starting to be very outward facing too. There's an interior work that's going on, but we're looking at other people too in all of this.
The more you look at these steps, steps 4, 6, and 8, you're making a list.
6 and 8.
You're making a list. Step 4 is a list that takes you to the action step of talking to somebody and confessing.
Yeah.
And that's where the healing takes place. Step 6, you're making a list so that you can pray. Step 8, you're making a list so that you can go and make amends. So you've got 4, 6, and 8 are list makers. That's where the real work inside of you takes place so that you can go and do the action step either with a person, with God, or with other people. So, you know, you asked me one time, do you have a word? Do you have a word for this step? And this one is brotherly love. But you can't brotherly love until you first love yourself.
I like how these steps kind of slow play you. Like it prepares you for each thing. You don't have to do everything all at once, but it prepares you like, well, now I've done all of this work. And so this thing that is truly terrifying is still terrifying, but maybe less so than it was before I did some of these other steps.
Well, you said you like the way these steps kind of prepare you. That's why the phrase that we always use as you're working these steps is do the next right thing.
So I have a question because we talked, I can picture making individuals on here, but so as I raise my kids, I mess up, right? And so there's harm that I'm going to do to my kids. No matter how hard I try not to, I'm going to do something wrong.
Welcome to parenting.
Right. And I offer that like judgment free. I'm not like, I try to be a good parent, all of those things that are within my control. So on this list, when it talks about making amends of the persons you have harmed, are you also making like, here's the one thing I did to them, or here's the 1,000 things that I did to them? Is it about the person, or is it about the stuff? Is it some combination of both?
Oh, great question. For me, I won't speak for anybody else in recovery. I'll just speak for Rick. I think what makes step 8 the hardest is motive. Step 8 is not about getting them to forgive me. My motive here is letting them know that I acknowledge my part.
Okay.
I harmed you. I did this, and I'm taking ownership for my part. It says, made a list of all the people that Rick harmed and became willing to make an amends. I'm not saying is it okay?
Oh.
I'm not saying, will you forgive me? I'm saying I acknowledge my motive here is to let you know that I'm aware.
So in making amends, is there also a sense that you're sorry for it? Is like a feeling of being sorry part of this at all, or is it just like, okay, I know I've done something wrong, and now I'm willing to try to make up for that?
I'm aware of the fact that I hurt you, which means there's a possibility, Dick, that you're angry. There's a possibility that you've got a resentment. There's a possibility that you've got bitterness. There's a possibility that I caused you to have issues inside of you. You may even need to deal with that, and it's my fault. I can't fix that, but I'm acknowledging the fact that I'm the root cause of that. Some stuff.
All right, Rick. Well, let's wrap up this portion of our conversation. We'll bring our guest out, and we'll continue our conversation about step number 8 with her.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome back to the conversation as we are joined by Maddie to continue talking about step number 8. Well, Maddie, first, thank you for joining us so much. Our first question for all of our guests is, why did you say yes to being here today?
Well, thank you for having me. I said yes for a couple of reasons. One, we don't say no in AA. And 2, Rick does a lot for me, and I don't want to say no to Rick. So,
as I've kind of been adjacent to the recovery community, there's a lot of people helping a lot of people. It's kind of a culture of mutual help, which I think is truly inspiring and encouraging. Well, thank you for saying yes, because these conversations are so much better when people say yes to being part of them. Our next question is usually, what's so hard about step number 8?
well, I think Rick touched on it a bit with motive earlier.
Okay.
But I think it's scary to think about all of the people that we have hurt, ourselves included, and not a lot of people are ready to face up to that. That's a huge part of, I think, why we stayed in the cycle of addiction. We wanted to avoid that.
Yeah.
But for me, the motive being, like, you have to be ready to make that list in its entirety without selfish reasons. You know, make an honest list, not just the people that you are hoping for forgiveness from, or, you know, the things that you think would, you know, even your score best. You know, you have to be honest with it, and that's really hard to do.
So I can imagine, thinking back on just my past in general too, like there's some people that I've harmed that I love and that I would love to make amends with, and there might be some people from my past that I've harmed and I don't care for them still. But both kinds of people have to go on this list. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Your motive is, let me say, it should be that we're trying to correct ourselves. We're trying to live openly and honestly. We're trying to live entirely different, and we can't pick and choose. We can't do things our way, because our way did not work. So, you know, like you said it well. Like, there's some people maybe you don't care for. For me, I had a long time of struggling with, I don't want to apologize to someone because I did 10 things to them, but they did 100 to me.
Yeah.
We have to let that go.
Now the score is not even.
Yeah.
And so they need to apologize to me first, or like I barely did anything to them compared, you know.
Yep, exactly.
So how do you get past that? Like, how do you wrestle with that internally and move forward?
Well, staying in contact with the sponsor really helps. I still will find myself getting checked by my sponsor because I find myself falling into old habits sometimes, but being completely ready to change and practicing humility, like truly humility, not humility for show. People will do that, but really wanting to, you know, get something different out of life and being prepared to do the embarrassing stuff and you know, to get past that. And it's kind of hard to put it into words, but when you're going through step 1, 2, and 3, if you've honestly done 1, 2, and 3, then you're ready to take the rest in stride.
So those for you kind of set that foundation. Were they harder for you since they were so foundational?
No, I've
Okay.
never really struggled with 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Because by the time this is my 3rd time going through the program.
Okay.
By the time that I am back at the doorstep of the program, if you will, I'm there. I've realized it's unmanageable. Yeah.
Okay.
But to be honest with yourself,
That's what gets you back.
that you're willing to change, and you're willing to have God help you change, and you might not know what that looks like, but you said that you were ready for it, so be ready,
So this is your 3rd time going through the program. Does step 8 feel different each time? Was it scarier one time? Did you have to, is there a sense where the first time you did half of a step 8 and you had to go deeper the second time, or do they change from time to time through here?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, the first time I went through the steps, I was in adolescence. I was in high school. My step 8 was very different then.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I had a lot of teenage hormones and rage and all kind. I know it's probably hard to envision with me, but so my list was very easy for me to think about people I'd harmed, because it started with people that harmed me first. I was very selfish when I made that list, and I didn't. I was a young teen. I didn't really have the ability, I don't think, emotionally, to think of my real impact of the crimes I was committing while I was under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Oh. The second time I went through the program, I was in my 20s, and it was a bit different, but I still had a mindset that I wasn't hurting people. So my step 8 was still very focused in the past, things that I had done in adolescence, and I didn't really see the pain I was causing people at that point in my life. This time, I'm actually not. And this time in the program, I'm not to step 8 yet. Okay. But in the treatment program I just spent 6 months in, we do a lot of similar work that involves thinking about things that would entail into step 8. And I think I have a much better mentality this time. Well, I'm very ready to be open and honest. And now I'll be 33 this fall, so I'm much older now. I have a wide scope of the pain that I've caused, people that I don't know, people that I've hurt, businesses that I've hurt, people that have lost funding and may have suffered in their life somehow because of some of the crimes I've committed. And really just my list is going to be much longer this time. Yeah.
And to make that list as a teenager sounds incredibly difficult to me. One of the things that really stood out is, as a teenager, you were able to identify the people that have harmed you. And as I look through this 12-step program, there is no point where you make a list of people who have harmed you and then blame it all on them or anything, which I guess that's healthy.
Well, for me,
I don't know.
It was very unhealthy, but I could think of, in my little teenage brain, all the people I've harmed, it's been in retaliation because you've harmed me. And so my heart still was not in the right place when I was doing it, right? Yeah.
So you're older now, you've grown. Is it just wisdom? You're just older, so you have more wisdom, and so now you're more ready for this, or has something else changed as well?
I've struggled with addiction most of my life. Yeah. I have never hit a rock bottom the way that I have, where I felt so stripped of everything and really forced to look at my life and how I connect with people in the world, the lack of spirituality that I had, and just the emptiness that I felt has never been so profound. And I think that's what makes this journey so different for me this time, and I'm getting so much more out of it this time. Yeah.
And you're feeling less empty this time?
Oh, I feel very full. And it's so great to enjoy that. I mean, I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. I didn't know what I was missing. I didn't think that I could enjoy a life sober. I thought if I ever had to get sober, my gosh, I thought I'd be going through motions, and it would feel so, I don't know, that would feel empty, but it's quite the opposite. Yeah.
That sounds like a very nice surprise to have found.
Yes.
So 3 times, you're not empty this time. What makes the difference? Why do you not feel so empty this time?
I think one, working an honest program.
Okay.
And making sure that I'm subjecting myself to all of the treatment that's not only required of me, but all of the resources and treatment that's available to me.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've really thrown myself in. And something else, too, is I have never in my life felt like God is working through me, but I do. I feel called. And so I've made a lot of changes in my life and a lot of commitments and taken on a lot of responsibilities that help keep me recovery-based, faith-based, help me keep connected with others, help keep filling my cup up so that it fills others. And a lot of that is staying in my Bible, staying connected with the people that I have at church and in recovery and the 12-step program. Absolutely, all of it.
So you said working an honest program.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say that, that is a description of the way you participate in the program, not like there are some dishonest programs out there that are like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. When we say
It's about your commitment.
When we say working an honest program, we mean we're not, lying by omission. We're not, not trying to dig deep, making an honest effort to try to remember those things that we might not remember, the people that we've harmed, the things that we've done, being willing to look in the dark corners for our character defects, being honest about it, not just honest enough, not just going through the motions, but something that you really get change at the end because you really are trying. That's what I mean by honest. Yeah.
So as you work through this program this time, do you have like an end goal, like a vision for life on the other side of all of this?
I've always had this thought in my mind from the very beginning of when I thought I wanted to commit to a sober life. I'm talking back when I was still sitting in a jail cell. And I always felt like I was just existing and I wanted to feel what it felt like to live, to be living. And I already have that feeling. And that's always my end goal is I want to wake up every day and maintain this gratitude that I have where I feel like I have life, not just existence.
So what do you do on a hard day?
I still feel grateful.
Okay.
I sometimes, the ladies in my sober living home, they'll laugh at me because I'll come home and be like, I am so tired, but I'm grateful. I'm so tired, but I'm not in prison. I'm so tired, but I'm fulfilled. But thank God I have a job to be tired from. And thank God that I've got, chores to do because I've got a house to live in. And it just, I'm just so positive that it makes people sick sometimes. But I love to be that way, and it rubs off on people in a great way.
So if you had someone going through step 8 or they're staring at step 8 and they just weren't sure about it, what kind of advice would you give to somebody thinking about this step?
Talk to your sponsor. Work
Okay.
it with a sponsor.
Okay.
Is my number one advice. You don't know what you don't know, and your sponsor knows a lot.
Okay.
But also, take a step back if you have to. You don't have to rush. It's not a checklist to get through all of the steps. It's worth doing once right. Take that from someone who's on the third time's the charm.
Yeah, exactly.
But don't, if it feels overwhelming, you're going to be distracted from doing it honestly.
Okay.
So it's okay to just for a second.
Speaking of sponsors, so by the time you get to step 8, are people usually working through the same sponsor all 8 steps? Or are people trying to switch in sponsors midstream? What's that life like?
Well, traditionally, you want to take the time to reach out to someone that you've been paying attention to at meetings, that you've found, trustworthy, and somebody that you can build a relationship with. And ideally, you'd love to stay with the same sponsor to watch you grow. But it is completely normal for people to change sponsorship. And every sponsor I've ever met is fine with that. The whole point is the program is about helping others and giving back to others. And if you end up not being the right match for somebody, then it's mutually happy to change sponsors. Yeah.
Because it's not about the sponsor, it's about the work being done.
Yeah, it's
And
about giving back in the program. One addict or alcoholic helping another addict or alcoholic stay sober.
And if it becomes about the sponsor instead of the work, then you're in a trouble spot.
Yeah.
So what, in the times that you've done this, I think step number 8 seems pretty intimidating. What's been the hardest part? What's the hardest step as you've gone through this?
Oh, I dread step 4 every time.
Okay.
I do. I'm currently on step 4 right now. My
Okay.
sponsor is so supportive. But I think step 5, saying something out, finding a human being on this earth to trust. If you were honest in step 4, oh my, that is so scary.
Yeah.
And I've never really felt like I've had that before in my life, and I do now. I have more than one person that I know that I can confide in, and it stays between us. I think that's something that's important too.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, is there anything else that you want to say about step 8 or recovery in general before we wrap up this part of our conversation?
I'm just really glad that you guys asked me to be here.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful to not only be sober and have a rewarding life, but I never thought that I would be in a position where I'm giving back so much and that it would feel so good. And so saying yes to simple things like this just really makes me happy and makes me feel good. So,
Well, thank you so much for saying yes, for being here. We're going to wrap up this part of our conversation, and we'll come back with just Rick and I, and we'll wrap up step number 8. Thank you.
thank you.
And welcome back as we wrap up our conversation on step number 8. Okay, Rick, what did you hear from Maddie that really stuck out to you?
There's one thing in particular that jumped out at me, and that had to do with working in an honest program. And I don't think it's so much an honest program in terms of what we do with the program as much as it means being honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And it kind of also reminds me of how we are with our relationship with the Lord. I think of so many times in my life when I go just in my quiet time or prayer time, or even when I'm doing my devotions, and I'll look at a passage and I'll be selective with it.
Yeah.
And I'll only tell God what I want God to hear. Or I'll talk to my spouse and I'll only tell her what I think she needs to know.
Yeah.
So it's just enough. And it's kind of like, okay, Lord, how much can I get away with and still get in? It's like heaven.
Yeah.
So
But I think there's even a book called like what's the least I can believe and still be Christian or something.
right. Or how much can I study and still get an A-?
That was me. That was me in high school. It's like, okay, an A- is still a 4.0.
Right.
I'm not getting above
Right.
an A-.
So how much can I get away with and still be okay? So when we talk about working in an honest program, or how much can I do and still be in the good graces of my sponsor? So if I'm supposed to make a list, well, she talked about the people that we have harmed. So you make a list in your adolescence. Well, they harmed me, so I harmed them back.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm in my 20s, I was a little bit more objective. Well, here I am now, early 60s, and I'm going, my list is, well, I've done this enough times now. My list is a lot less than it used to be, but now I'm looking at some things. It's tough because I've made this list and I've made a lot of amends, but now the ones that are left, there's some pretty toughies. And I'm really praying. Some of these are prodigals. I mean, I'm like looking at these going, these have been on here for a while. And now I'm looking at this and going, except when to do so would harm them or others. So now we're bleeding over. We're bleeding over into step 9, and I'm going, it's not time yet. It's still not time. So, this is where the rubber hits the road, which is why this is a large order.
And so if this is my 15th time going through step 8, is there a chance that I've made amends back the 7th time and I don't have to make those amends anymore? Like they don't have to go on my list?
You don't do that.
Okay.
You make the amends and you're done. Because you're
Yeah.
not trying to fix anything.
Yeah.
Your motive is to take a responsibility. If I've taken a responsibility and you haven't accepted it, that's on you.
Yeah.
I'm done. I don't make amends over and over and over and over again. Right now, we're still on step 8. Step 8 is I've acknowledged my part.
Yeah.
We got to stick
And
where we are.
there might be new things that you missed from your past or that you were hesitant to list from your past, but you don't have to relist the things that you've already done.
It's on the list.
It's like
It's done.
forgiveness in Christian faith. Like you forgive, and then you're holding on to that forgiveness. You don't have to forgive someone over and over and over
Right.
again, depending on where your heart is.
Yeah, the honesty is the honesty. That's my part, is to be honest.
Rick, how do you think our faith walk would be different if we worked an honest faith walk, an honest program of our faith? How would we go about our faith of following Jesus differently if in our churches we were able to work honest programs?
That's like asking, how do you think people would respond on a Sunday morning if they were completely honest about their sin in the eyes of a God who has compassion for them? Because he is always right there, and the invitation in the hand is always there. If they were honest, our places of worship would be filled with the same kind of joy and gratitude that we just saw, as opposed to shame and concern and fear. There would be no shame and fear. There would be joy and worship.
Yeah. I think it would change a lot. I think it would change us a lot.
We would all be grateful and joyful.
Well, Rick, let's leave that with our last thought here on step number 8. So I want to commend to everyone to think about recovery or even just life. What does it mean to commit ourselves fully to life and working all these steps? Because keep coming back, because it works if you work it, and it's awful if you don't. We'll just say it that way.
There you go.
Thank you for joining us on step number 8 as we continue this journey through the steps of recovery.
All
We'll
right.
talk to you next time.
Thanks.
Table Talk, a 12-step journey with Nick Robinson.